My name is TJ Hines. I am co-chair with events with Atlanta Pride. I've been working with Atlanta Pride for about 3.5 years. The first memorable experience I had with Atlanta Pride was when I was actually marching in the parade and I got an opportunity to see the hundreds upon thousands of supporters that were in the streets waving us on and cheering us on. It really brought a sense of community to me. I love being able to reach out to other people and bring that experience to them so that other people know that they're not alone, and I just really like giving back to the community. Both social justice and LGBTQ issues really do go hand in hand, so I just find that being able to bridge those two gaps is extremely important.
Jamie Ferguson, and I'm the Executive Director of Atlanta Pride. I have been the Executive Director for about 7 months now, but I have been a volunteer with Atlanta Pride since 2002. I started as a general volunteer, worked my way through the committee, the board, and made a career change to become an ED last year. I think with Atlanta Pride, one of the best things about us is that we have amazing volunteers, a really dedicated team of people who give their own time and their energy all year round to make events happen for other people in the community. And it's a very thankless job. Most of our volunteer jobs are behind the scenes, but people are just so giving, and they do it because they know that these events have made a positive impact in their lives, and so they want to give that back to other people. The first Atlanta Pride I attended was in 2001. I was a teenager. I had just come out as a lesbian, and I was from a small town, and so I came out to Atlanta with my best friend, and he and I just sort of stumbled into the Pride Parade, and for me, it opened up this brand new world of acceptance and rainbows and just people that I had never seen and didn't know existed. Before that, I had always heard just through sort of the cultural messages that being gay or lesbian was somehow wrong, or that it was going to be a less than life. And when I stumbled upon Pride, I saw so many happy, engaged people living really fulfilled lives. And for me, it opened doors, and it meant that more things were possible in my life. And so for me, that was sort of a game changer, and part of why I've been involved with Pride for so long.
Yes, my name is Doug Roberts, and I'm a financial advisor. I've been involved in the LGBT community for a number of years, helping to sponsor, working with same-sex couples, and I found that sometimes people need a little bit more help getting to their goals. And not everyone is going to be as open as I am, so I enjoy working with all different types of people. I think for me, the Atlanta Pride festivals themselves are just incredible. The job they do putting it on, the number of people, the music, the feeling where everyone's together and there's no judgments, to me that is just a fantastic experience. I would say the first thing is to make sure you've got some emergency savings, just in case. Don't take all your money to pay off debt. Make sure you've got a little bit of money, and then set up a systematic plan to pay down the debts you have and begin with savings. Once you get to that point, then sitting down with a financial advisor is certainly helpful to that.
I'm so glad you're here. I need to say a few thank yous first. First of all, to all of our volunteers, the Atlanta Pride volunteers. If you'll raise your hands. Some of you are volunteers. Work year-round to produce these events, and they are the hardest working team of volunteers in town, and I'm so grateful to have all of them. Also, Bantam and Biddy, the restaurant has provided space and appetizers and the beverages. And then finally, Doug Roberts with Ameriprise Financial has covered all of the other costs of the event so that we can have no barrier to entry. So that we can all be here. And Doug just wanted to say a word to begin.
How's the food, guys? Good? Thank you. I just wanted to speak for just a few minutes, and thank you all for coming. And what this event means to me is about a journey. We all have our own journeys, right? Where we've come from, where we're going. Our Founding Valentines we have here started their journeys a long time ago. The difference between their journeys and ours is that the change they've made for all of us has made our lives easier. Has it made it better for us as we've gone along through all the little steps and the challenges they've done over time. So I just want to thank the Founding Valentines here for all the work that you've done to make it easier and better for the next generation. Thank you, guys.
But the other partner with whom this night would not be possible is Dave Hayward with Touching Up Our Roots.
Yeah.
It sounds like many of you know Dave already, but he is a wealth of information about the history of our community, and we are so lucky to have him helping us pull this together and making sure that we're connecting with all the right people and organizations that we should be. And so I wanted to let Dave say some words about why we're here, what we're celebrating, and what we're doing tonight.
Thanks, Jamie. Hey. Hey, y'all. Some of you must be Northerners to come out in all this. I'm a reconstructed Yankee myself, so anyway. I wanted to give a little context for the evening. And first, I wanted to acknowledge Ryan Roman with the LGBT Institute National Center for Civil and Human Rights is here. And that's a really exciting thing. Really exciting thing that's happening here in Atlanta. So first of all, we have an information table for Touching Up Our Roots. So please look at the table, and all the material, the articles are free, and we have some CDs and DVDs and interviews we've done. We ask for a donation for those. So, and the mission of Touching Up Our Roots is 4 C's: celebrate the contributions that lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender people have made to expanding civil rights for all people, to creating civic and neighborhood organizations, and to enhancing local, regional, and national culture. Woo-yee! All those things. Civil rights, civics, and culture. So I'm going to give you a little bit of context for the evening. We did this last year. It was the first time. And so I was so excited when Laura Barton from Pride called me and said, well, Dave, let's do it again. It's like, yay, let's do it again. Let's do it again. So last year we celebrated kind of the beginnings, which kind of took us, the LGBT rights movement goes back to the 20s even, I think in Chicago, and especially in the 50s here in the nationally. And so we celebrated people that kind of did everything, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. And so working chronologically, so now we're celebrating the 80s. So some of us were not here in the 80s, so we're really little and barely remember the 80s. Some of us remember the 80s all too well. So I wanted to give you a little context for that. You know, the 80s, of course, was, you know, Top Gun and Dynasty and Big Hair, and especially Reagan. We survived Reagan, Ron and Nancy. I'll never forget, I was at a Democratic Party. It was November of 1980. And it was going to be a celebration victory party, haha. So not only did Carter go down, but all the different senators went down too. And when we were leaving, you know, the progressives and Democrats and everything, our greeting to them was, see you in the camps. And we all thought, oh, we're all going to be in camps. Everybody's all in camps. I remember Jesse Helms was on the cover of Newsweek and said, to the right, march. So we survived the 80s, the fact that we even survived. And one of the things that I mentioned on the program is that in the 70s, you know, we finally kind of became a mainstream movement. And in the 80s, we had a lot of pushback. Of course, we had some of that in the 70s too with Nita Bryant, which some of us, you know, shudder to remember. But anyway, in the 80s here, for example, we had a bookstore that was the precursor to the outright Christopher's Kind. And was the Georgia Bureau of Investigation was prosecuting them for obscenity, and it was like, this is a legitimate bookstore, come on you guys. And then also in the 80s, we had Hardwick versus Bowers, which I think all of us remember only too well. Michael Bowers, who was a local Atlanta man, arrested in his own bedroom, no less, and that's a really long story I can't really go into, but he appealed his conviction all the way to the Supreme Court. It was gonna, and we thought, we have got this in the bag. This is 1986. You know, there's no way that they're gonna, you know, uphold the sodomy laws. They did. The Supreme Court did indeed. But the thing about it that I really want to call out, and we'll be talking about that with each individual honoree, is that, you know, we take lemons and we make them into lemonade. So as a result of that, we had Winston Johnson here who got Mrs. King, his good friend Mrs. King, involved in LGBT rights. That was the real catalyst for him to do that. And then also, we had the second National March on Washington for LGBT rights. And one of our honorees tonight, a posthumous honoree, Ray Kluge, was arrested on the steps of the Supreme Court during massive civil disobedience in 1987, October of '87, to protest the Supreme Court. And of course, they've completely reversed that now, and now we have marriage equality. Woo! Yeah, marriage equality. So, okay, and then of course, in the '80s. The biggest thing, I think, of all was AIDS. And each one of our honorees tonight has been a real warrior in the fight against AIDS. And again, with AIDS, it led to the quilt, which is just a wonderful, wonderful, names project quilt to commemorate every person who's passed of AIDS. And then also ACT UP, the AIDS Coalition to Unleash Power. Let's see. And then I talked to you about the greeting we gave to each other at the Democratic Party, see you in the camps. And the irony of that was in 1980, and the very next year, when AIDS became, an epidemic, they had very, very serious talk about quarantine. Luckily that did not happen. So at least although the government pretty much abdicated its responsibilities to us, at least that did not happen. We did not have quarantine. And I wanted to mention Richard Rose here, who also in the 1980s became one of the first openly gay people to run for office. Yay! In 1988, and he also was the first openly gay delegate from Georgia to the Democratic National Convention in 1988 with the lesbian Melinda Daniels, and also in 1992. So, okay, one of the stories I like to tell is that in 1986, February '86, we encircled the Baptist Church in Midtown, and Judy Combs of the P Flag, brought P Flag out to do that. And the reason we did that was that, I don't know whatever happened to Reverend Charles Stanley. I assume he's still around somewhere. Suburbs! Suburbs! Back to the burbs, where he belongs. OTP! But he said AIDS was God's judgment against sinners. So we encircled the church, and one of the quick story I want to tell was that Judy was contacted by some of the P-Flag parents and said, oh, should we come to this demonstration and everything? She said, there'll be so many people there, no one will see you. Well, in one case, one particular mother was on all the 3 TV networks. Somebody saw her, somebody called her out. So the last thing I want to say about AIDS was that it was both monstrous and wondrous, and it led to greater political clout and a higher public profile. Isn't it ironic? Thanks.
And so now we're going to honor each of our, each individual by themselves. I'm going to read a short bio, and please forgive me for reading from the paper. There's so many wonderful things that I don't want to miss them. But if each honoree, when I read your bio, if you'd like to come up, if you'd like to say something briefly, you certainly may. You are not obligated to do so if you would prefer not to speak. But we do have a little something for you, and would like to get a picture with you. If you're not able to make it to the front of the room because people are in your way, please ask them to move. But if you if you prefer that we bring your award to you, we can also certainly do that. That's a little difficult. All right, and so we'll start with Mona Bennett. Mona Bennett first made waves locally when she joined Atlanta ACT UP in 1989, cutting her teeth on grassroots activism with ACT UP's protest at the Centers for Disease Control. From there, Mona followed her zeal for service and care to the Atlanta Harm Reduction Coalition, where she is the Associate Director. Is that the correct title now? Okay, it's going to change. A walking and talking social service agency in the form of a person, Mona is an expert on AIDS and HIV prevention and on caring for people rather than judging and persecuting them. Mona is the Earth Mother for all people affected by AIDS, hepatitis, crystal meth, and the like. We're so grateful you're here.
y'all. Thank y'all for coming out in this snow. Thank y'all. It's an honor to be up here. Oh wow. Back in the day. Also along with the first big CDC demonstration, the day before was the sodomy demonstration. Who remembers the big brass bed on the Capitol steps? Oh yes. It was something. It was something. And eventually it did lead to us not having sodomy laws, even though seems like a few states are trying to recriminalize sodomy. Can we do something about that, please?
Right.
Oh my. There was the expansion of the HIV the definition of AIDS to include women, to include injection drug users, just to make sure that everybody was being recognized in this epidemic. We still have a long way to go in this epidemic. And we also have the tsunami of hepatitis C. We got to do a whole lot to get our LGBTQIA youth off the streets.
Yes, we do.
Thank you for recognizing me. Thank you for recognizing the Atlanta Harm Reduction Coalition. Someday I hope we won't be the only syringe exchange program in Georgia. We need many more of these, and I'm happy to help spread them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Charlie Brown, lovingly referred to as the mouth of the South, Charlie Brown reigns supreme as the diva of all drag divas and fearless stand-up comic. Woe to any hecklers and naysayers. You can't out-zing Charlie. Currently holding court as the MC at the Lips Drag Diva Showcase on Buford Highway, Charlie has performed all over Atlanta, and her venues read like an LGBT Gone with the Wind. Beneath her sass is an all-embracing community spirit, and Charlie was one of the first entertainers to perform for people living with AIDS and for Aid Atlanta. Like her credits, her benefits and charity work are too numerous to mention. Thank you, Charlie. And our third honoree tonight is Dee Dee Shanley. And Executive Director of Legender Incorporated in Atlanta, and the template for an activist for all, especially for transgender issues. As such, President Obama recognized her as a champion of courage at the White House, one of only 9 people in the country who he honored for making a difference in the fight against HIV and AIDS on the 30th anniversary of the HIV and AIDS pandemic. Ms. Shanley is an expert in substance abuse prevention, intimate partner violence, and diversity training. She also serves on the programming board of the LGBT Institute at the National Center for Civil and Human Rights. And in 2013, she also helped to found the Solutions Not Punishment Coalition, SNAPCO.
Thank y'all, wonderful, beautiful people, and for all the other Founding Valentines that are here with me sharing the love this evening. I have to give you this quick story, though, about the Champion of Change that I was being honored at for the 30th anniversary of HIV and AIDS. When we arrived at Washington, standing in front of the White House, waiting to go in, it was like 90 degrees outside. I had on a 3-piece suit, I had on pantyhose, I had on my wig and my makeup. So you know, 3 hours out there was not pretty. But and we were offered no water or anything like that. So all of the other champions and us, we just said, this is what, we are coming here to celebrate the 30th anniversary. Why do we feel like they feel that we came with the change, with the cure? We haven't found the cure yet, and the medicines and the medications that we're taking, there are a lot of side effects. And you have to drink a lot of water, and some of them are photosensitive, so you can't be in sunlight for a long amount of time. So what were they thinking when they brought us up here and have us standing out here like this? So we all agreed that we were right back to all the people that we had met that day, all the deputy directors and everyone, about our experience being honored as a champion of change. And when I got back home, I couldn't wait to write my letter. I stayed up that night and I wrote my letter faithfully, thinking I was going to have a group of people standing with me. But it turned out I was the only one that sent a letter. So I was out in the water with nowhere to go. And the White House was calling and they were barking. What do you mean we don't know how to take care of people with HIV and AIDS? That is our job. We are the policy advisors. And my partner has HIV and AIDS, so I really take offense to you saying that, Ms. Shambly. I said, if you call me to apologize, I will accept your apology. But if you call to justify your actions, we have nothing else to talk about. And your partner was not out there yesterday in a three-piece suit and pantyhose and fearful and scared by doing that, but it was something in me that gave me the courage to say to them, you know, you're making the policies for us, and you don't even know how we need to be treated. So you need to adjust that situation. So I'm going back to the White House again in the morning on the red-eye flight.
Our next honoree is Judy Coles. Judy came to advocacy indirectly through her lesbian daughter Sandy, who encouraged her and her late husband Marv to check out Atlanta's Parents and Families and Friends of Lesbians and Gays, PFLAG. From there, she came to lead PFLAG from 1986 to 2006, that's 20 years, and became what she calls the token straight on LGBTQ boards. Judy also helped to forge alliances between the LGBTQ community and the Jewish community, especially at Congregation Beit Haverim. And as a longtime civil rights supporter, she brought PFLAG to the barricades, cajoling people who'd never demonstrated before to do so. Martin Luther King III found out about that firsthand when Judy addressed him for some homophobic comments. And then she also addressed the 1993 Olympics out of Cobb rally, dismissing the threat of snipers by saying, "I'm not important," but how wrong she is. Thank you, Judy.
Thank you so much for this magnificent recognition. I want to tell you about a little bit how all this happened, as some of you have heard already. One of my daughters came out to me many years ago. My other daughter, who's here tonight, is straight, but she can't help it. I dearly love both of my daughters and are so happy that they have the love of their lives in their lives. My son-in-law, Michael, I don't have a son, but now I almost do. He's a wonderful guy. And my daughter-in-law, Kit. Kit and Sandy are not here. They live in Illinois and couldn't come. But I'm talking to Kit. I welcomed you, Kit, when it was not legal, when you and Sandy got married, and happily again after it finally became legal. When my husband and I paid for Allison's wedding, we gave Sandy the same amount of money because she was gay and would never get married. Wrong.
You owe me some money.
Over the many years, we have lost some of the finest and funniest investment that we have known, as you all have. And I was in a support group once at Aid Atlanta, and I was saying it seemed like an infinite number of people that I had lost. And they said, well, it's a lot of people, but it's not infinite. Write down the names. Well, it was 60 in a 2-year period. That was a lot. At any rate, I carry a notebook at all times and write down funny things that as I encounter them. This began when my friend Phil and I and about 10 others were at dinner. Our friend Jonathan was there, and he was across the table, long table, and on the other side. I could see him, but Phil couldn't. And so he suddenly said, Judy, what is Phil eating? And I said, escargot. He said, ugh. I said, what's the matter? You don't like snails? And he said, this is epic, he said, I try never to eat anything I brush off my marigolds. So funny. That was what he felt all the time. So I started carrying a notebook to write down everything he said. We also exchanged books. He was a book buyer for Borders. He was an English major. And we had exchanged books. And we were at somebody's house something and was something. And I said, well, Phil, I finished my book. How about you? He says, well, the book I'm reading is about the Civil War. It has 474 pages. I'm on page 390, and not a shot has been fired, so it doesn't bode well. Bill and I were downtown the day they announced that Atlanta was going to get the Olympic bid for the summer. He was so excited, and we took a walk in Piedmont Park, and all of a sudden he stopped and he said, why am I excited? I won't be alive then. And he was sadly, he was correct. But he asked me to watch the synchronized swimming for him, so every summer I do, with tissues in my hand. My PFLAG days, as you know, spanned 20 years giving mommy hugs until biological moms and dads felt that they could give the hugs to their children. That started in a Washington march where we were, when somebody came out from the side as we marched by, a young man, and he went over to one of our dads and he said, will you give me a hug? My father won't hug me anymore. Next week I was at Kroger's and this handsome man came over to me and said, can I have a hug?
Duh!
So I went in for the hug and then he said, I need a hug. And I thought, I didn't say it, but I thought, you can have any kind of hug. But I'm very grateful for having been a part of the early days of LGBT community in Atlanta. And I was touched to see 71 likes on the Facebook page when this event was on Facebook. That was remarkable. So thank you very much for this honor. One more thing. Nowhere does it say I was voted the hippest heterosexual in Atlanta.
Somebody needs to make that award happen.
We apologize for omitting that important piece of information. Our next awardee is Dr. Jessie Peel. In the 80s, as a psychiatrist, Dr. Peel lobbied for a midtown psychiatric practice counseling LGBT people. And then he found out that he should be careful what he wished for when he found himself and his patients at ground zero in the AIDS crisis. Not an activist at the time, Dr. Peel and his friends didn't know how to throw parties, and so they began to host pool party fundraisers for newly minted AIDS organizations that they helped create. A longtime survivor of AIDS, Dr. Peel consults and collaborates with Emory University's AIDS Legacy Project to catalog our stories of living through the unfathomable. Thanks.
As I listened to my colleagues speaking earlier, I was struck with how strange it seems just to be here this evening. I retired 24 years ago, and when I did, I had the goal to live 4 more years until the Olympics came. Judy's friend didn't make that. I did. I was lucky, and the 3 Drug Cocktail came out that same year. So I set another goal to the millennium, and well, you see how the story goes. But to me, the strangest thing is to, after all these years, to still be here when I wouldn't have given 2 cents for my chances. It's an honor to be here with you. I appreciate you coming out here this evening, and I hope that the young folks here will learn something from our having survived this long. That they really have to keep on fighting, keep on struggling. We've had so much change and so many wonderful things happening. It's tempting to think it's a victory lap, but it's only the first step. There's 700 or 800 kids out on the street tonight here in Atlanta, and we've got to be doing a better job of taking care of our young folks. So thank you for being here. Thank you for all your support and all what you do in the community. And God bless.
Our next awardee tonight is Reverend Duncan Teague. Duncan has had a career arc similar to Barack Obama's, although in his case he went from the community organizer going to the pulpit instead of the presidency. It's not in his official bio for the night, but I'm also proud to say that Duncan has also been a longtime friend of Atlanta Pride and is a former Atlanta Pride organizer. So I benefit greatly from his legacy as well. But a longtime HIV educator and researcher, Teague most recently coordinated the tenofovir, which is tenofovir PrEP study at the AIDS Research Consortium of Atlanta. Now an ordained Unitarian Universalist minister, Teague is Georgia Equality's first faith outreach coordinator to address the religious objections of many of our critics. Teague's charismatic public speaking, coming home to Jesus speaking truth to power style, and his performance career with the Doty Muse should enhance his mission. Thank you, Duncan.
I want you to give her another hand. Do you use her? Okay, another hand, because she's actually a physical legacy from our community. Your uncle was Phyllis Killer from way back in the day.
Oh, wow.
Is there enough pantyhose on that for that picture? I want to dedicate my few remarks, and they will be few because I'm a Unitarian minister, not the Baptist. I think, and if I'm wrong, then you can correct me, but I believe the first African-American lesbian Grand Marshal of Pride was Gloria McCrary, and she was a party organizer, one of the founders of Black Gay Pride also. And she was so scared in the car as Grand Marshal because she'd never done anything like that. And the larger Pride recognized her. The truck that was driven the year before I was Grand Marshal, the first time, was driven by Venus Landon, and we were partners. And we were sort of the mommy and daddy of the African American Lesbian Gay Alliance. I'll let you figure out who was who. Tony Daniels, of course, was founder of a lot of things. Ken and Hubert Alexander. I'm going to try to make it through this list, y'all. Because I didn't do this. When I got here, there was a lot going on. Now I was a small child. Bertha Butt was like a phenomenal drag performer, and she performed, and then I think shortly after that pride she passed away. Gene Holloway, I've been corrected, was not the first black gay Grand Marshal, but he was the first black person on the organizing committee, and that was back when the march had about 20 people, I think. Jim Harlow was my former lover and a leftist and a big crazy man, and we loved each other, and he carted me around to like circling First Baptist on Peachtree and praying with Judy. I don't know what Judy was praying, but and I remember Shelley and Laura Bivens and her partner and Lynn Cothran, and there was a whole group of us. Judy, were you in that mess?
I was the spring. There were you and Joan and me and...
That's right, and Annie. And we sort of formed a little committee that went to the beautiful white gay men with these big chests and muscles and, oh, excuse me, and who had kept the legacy of Pride going. But there were some things that they needed some help on. And so we helped them. And the year we came in, the March on Washington happened and some other things happened, and we prepared for about 30, and 60,000 people showed up. Yes. The next year, I had the honor of being Grand Marshal, and we prepared for about 65 or 70,000, and 100 and something thousand people showed up. 100 and something, y'all can applaud, thank you. One of those guys is still involved, and it's Al Hellenberg.
He has moved out of Atlanta, but we still work with Al quite a bit.
So Al's been involved since the mid-'80s, I know. Jeff Black, who's still gorgeous, Tom and DeWade, because his parents couldn't decide whether to call him Wayne or that other name. Anyway, the other thing that I'm sort of bound to do, I left Georgia Equality to start Abundant Love. Love is spelled L, Unitarian Universalist, V, so it's LUUV, and we're going to be putting liberal religion in Southwest Atlanta. Hillside Center of Truth is already there, has been there for a long time with Dr. Barber, but we think she needs some help. And Reverend Sharon Hodnett is in the back, and she's with Hillside, one of their first out lesbian ministers. Yes. Somebody who was at the first Black and White Men Together rap session, where I walked in with a 29-inch waist. Actually, they were big on me. It is true. And it was Roger Bateman, who was long head of BWMT Atlanta, and his partner, Kenneth, is helping me with Abundant Love. And thank you all for being here. And I see some folks I don't know, and I thank God for that. I really do. If me and Dee Dee and Judy and God have mercy, Mona, if she knows, if we know everybody in the room, then there's a problem, and that means the movement hasn't gone on. Yeah. So I bless those folks who I don't know. Oh, Jesse Veal, I loved you so much. Never mind. I'm married. I married another guy. Okay, two things, and I'll sit down. I'm doing all right? Where's the waiters? Temple. 8 bills that will essentially enshrine into law discrimination. Don't give up. Ooh, I'm in ministry. Anyway, they are not about religious freedom. Your religious freedom is protected in the Constitution.
Thank you.
It's fine. I know, I'm in the business now. Y'all, you gotta call your friends who never will go to these marches. Explain to them what them idiots at the Gold Dome are doing and tell them to call. Even if your representative is supportive. We have got to stop this crap. And not just for the money, but for the morality and the ethics of it. It doesn't make sense. And it's really not about us, y'all. So don't get all personal. It's not. This is another smoke screen so that somebody can run for statewide office and have their name. If it were about us, the bills would have been written better, they would have been vetted over a larger group of people. They got a few Southern Baptists, ooh, shut up, Duncan. Anyway, call them, because there is a broad, wide coalition, including all the groups of faith. Baptist, liberal, everything is there. Folk who don't even believe in God are there. Because we've got to stop this stuff. So that's some of the work that these younger people have to do. And I just want to say that when I came out in 1992, I told my friends at the bar that I was looking for a husband. Because I was brought up Baptist, and you just didn't sleep around. Shut up. Shut it down. You just didn't sleep around. You got a husband or a wife, and you lived together, and you had children and all that. And that was what I wanted. I wanted 4 children. I was crazy. My friends laughed at me, y'all. They laughed. They said, Duncan, you need to go in that bookstore or in that park or whatever and do what you need and be done with it, girl. We ain't never gonna get married. 22 years with Dr. David Thurman. Yes. And we beat the rush. We had a nice religious ceremony in 03 and 06. He surprised me in Toronto with a simple little, legal ceremony. And it's been 22 of the best years of his life. There's a lot of people in this little piece of glass, and I'm so honored and humbled to still be here. And I'm glad I stopped dyeing my hair because y'all started giving me awards. So thank you. So if there are people lying about your age and dyeing your hair, hey.
When Duncan came up, he whispered to me, he asked if he could out me about something, and I wasn't sure what he was going to say, so that's all it was. But
is there more?
So our last award tonight is a posthumous award. Ray Kluka, unfortunately, is no longer with us, but we wanted to honor Ray's contributions. Ray was the male co-chair of the Southeast Region Committee for the first National March on Washington in 1979. From there, he became the second director of the Atlanta Gay and Lesbian Center, the president of the Midtown Neighbor Association, and the editor of the gay magazine, etc. In 1987, he received the Martha Gaines Award from the Lesbian and Gay chapter of the ACLU. Upon his passing on June 10, 1989, he was lauded as a mensch, an all-around good guy. We miss him terribly. And unfortunately, we were not able to get someone from Ray's family to accept on his behalf, so Dave is going to speak for a moment.
I'm doing this because Ray and I were very close friends. We consider one another brothers. And the pictures there against the wall there is a picture of Ray, and also Ray is one of the 2 people that we know of that has a park dedicated in his name. It's on Monroe Drive, off of the Dotto Way, just a couple blocks from Ponce de Leon. And then there's also the John Howell Park, which is the huge park on Virginia Avenue. So there are 2 public places named for gay people, Ray Kluge and John Howell. And I also wanted to accept his award on behalf of his extended family, who have gone to Connecticut, Elizabeth Monahan and Eva Salzer. They were like brother and sisters to one another. And then my former partner, Greg James, and we all kind of were extended family at the time. In the 1979 National March on Washington, 1987. The thing I remember about Ray especially is that he would say, "Dave, I am not one of the A gays. I'm not an A gay." And when he passed, he knew that he was probably not going to beat AIDS. And he was concerned about what would happen if people would come to his memorial, because he was such an activist that he was mostly political and not so much personal. And when they had his memorial, that room was packed. And people loved him anyway. One of the things Duncan said about him is that he was one of the nice activists. One of the kindly activists. I wanted to show this. This is from the era of AIDS. Georgia, another patch in the quilt from 1988. So we love Ray, and he still lives in all of us. Thank you.
And just to conclude our program tonight, I wanted to make a few announcements. First, thank you so much to everyone who's come here. We are incredibly lucky to have the community that we have in Atlanta, to have these people who have done work over the decades, along with so many others. And I want to say, give my personal thanks to all of you who have made my work, my life possible. It's always great to hear these stories. So a few notes. This is a Valentine's event. You'll notice the timing. We do have some Valentines up at the front. If you would like to come and write a note or a Valentine for any of our awardees, we'll be collecting them and making sure that they get them so that we can all share our thanks and admiration. Also, we have a few more minutes. Feel free to grab some snacks if you haven't. Beer and wine is on the table. Non-alcoholic beverages are available at the bar or from your servers. We have until 8:30, so you can eat and drink until 8:30. And then I just want to make a few announcements. Duncan covered the House bill quite a bit, but the first vote on the House bills could be as early as tomorrow. There are 8 bills that would legalize public officials and or private businesses discriminating against people on the basis of their sexual orientation, gender identity, gender, so even your straight women friends may be interested in this, religion or other differences. These are important bills. They have passed other places in the country. This is an important time to rally. So if you need more details, talk to one of the Pride volunteers or some of the other
Georgia United.
Georgia United has a Facebook page. We linked to it on the Pride Facebook page, Georgia Equality. So please take action. Let's all learn a little something from what we've heard tonight and take action. Call your representatives, call your friends and have them call. The next large Pride event is a very different event from them, but I want to invite you to join us. We're having Julie Goldman for a comedy show on March 6th at My Sister's Room in Midtown. We'd love to have you. We do some serious things and some fun things, and you're invited to all of them. And then I also wanted to let you know that in early April, we will be opening for Grand Marshal nominations for the 2016 Pride Parade. I want everyone in this room to know that, because there's such a wealth of knowledge in the room, and you all know people who should be honored. So we seek nominations from the committee, and then the membership of the Atlanta Pride narrows that down. Last year we had 75 nominations. I would love to break 100 this year. Please see our website. If you don't do the internet, talk to me or give the office a call, and we will let you know how to do that. Thank you for coming. We're really glad to have you, and have a good evening.